When you're ready.
My name is Charlie, and I will be presenting about evolution and adaptation in both humans and animals. After doing some research, I found three main sources to back my claim. One stimulus material I used was Nelson Mandela and his Long Walk to Freedom. Another stimulus material I used was Eric Bender's Urban Evolution, and I also used Julia Watson's TED Talk. This research helped me think of an investigative question. How have humans and animals learned to adapt over time? Humans and animals have physically and mentally adapted throughout history. An example is the Madon tribe that lives in a water civilization. Julia Watson explains how the tribe figured out a solution and made specific islands themselves so that they can help themselves make a living. The ancient knowledge and wisdom has allowed this tribe to develop certain tactics that still work today. For the mental aspect of adaptation, we see this in Nelson Mandela and the Long Walk to Freedom. As Mandela states, within a few months, our life settled into a new pattern, showing that the prisoners had to adapt to a new way of life and the patterns that the prisoners made in order to help each other. We also see this when Mandela states, our survival depended on understanding what the authorities were attempting to do to us and sharing that understanding with each other. One must understand what is going on outside of their reach in order to adapt to a situation or a new way of life. Mandela also brings up that all the men in the prison had different responses to hardships and the way that they suffered from the harsh reality of prison, showing how everyone is different but still found a way to survive. We see this in the way that the authorities treated the prisoners and how they were trying to take away their freedom and confidence that there's a life outside of prison and that they will live to see it. Mandela also states, prison and the authorities conspire to rob each man of their dignity. Once you start second guessing and doubting your actions, there is no way you will succeed. And that is exactly what prison was trying to do to the men escaping for their freedom. Urban evolution is another way that humans and animals have adapted. Humans have created better technology including Wi-Fi, sewage systems, traffic lights, and more living space such as apartment complexes. All these have helped human beings thrive, specifically in a city lifestyle. Eric Bender quotes, "The city is also the fastest growing ecosystem on the planet, home to more than half of the world's population." Not only in humans and animals do we see adaptation, but also in plants. Bender quotes, "White clover in downtown Toronto is less likely than clover in surrounding rural areas to produce cyanide that deters herbivores, a trend mirrored in cities in many countries," a new study finds. Showing that plants need to adapt in order to survive in different areas around the world. Natural selection plays a role in evolution as well. If animals are not able to change in certain environments, they will not survive. Bender quotes, "Probably the best known example of urban evolution is the English peppered moths, whose coloration darkened in the 19th century in response to coal pollution. Natural selection affected the population of the English peppered moths. The trees were darkened into a black stain due to pollution from the Industrial Revolution. The white moths were not able to blend into the trees as well, and therefore they were eaten by predators, and they stood out. Changes in behavior and appearance have made a difference in animal adaptation. The American Geoscience Institute states, in southern Africa, there are small animals called meerkats, which live in large colonies. The meerkats take turns standing on their hind legs, looking up at the sky to spot birds of prey. Meanwhile, the meerkats in the rest of the colony go about their lives. Because the meerkats are on the lookout for predators, the chance of being eaten have lowered significantly, showing how the behavior of these animals has changed over time in order to better their chances of survival. Niche is a term used to describe the role in which a species has in the environment that they live. More times than not, we will see multiple forms of niche in a single environment. This can be affected by the environment constantly changing. We see this in many species, but the most common known type of animal would be the horse that lived because of how long they've lived in North America. The American Geoscience Institute states, many fossils of different kinds of horses have been discovered, and paleontologists think that the earliest ancestors of the modern horse lived in North America more than 50 million years ago. This animal was a small padded foot creature about the size of a dog. We now know that horses are very large creatures, which can reach the height of 72 inches and weigh up to 2,200 pounds. Not only did the size of these animals change, but also other physical appearances, such as the shape of their teeth. The horse's teeth have changed, allowing them to grind down the grass easier. The location of the horse's eyes also changed, and it moved further back in the head so that they are more aware of their surroundings. In conclusion, humans and animals have had to learn to adapt over time. Evolution has made a more efficient way of life. We see this in Mandela's story, Eric Bender's urban evolution, and Julia Watson's TED Talk. These all have similarities in how evolution has evolved. Mandela's story about surviving prison, urban evolution and natural selection, and Watson explaining how ancient technology has helped tribes live throughout the years. Eventually, humans and animals will no longer be able to evolve, leading to the end of humanity. However, until then, animals and humans will continue to evolve to attempt to make life easier for the better.
What's evidence that you gathered you didn't include in your presentation, and why did you choose not to include it?
So I saw some facts about like how humans were created in the first place and how we evolved from that. But I found that there are two main points of view. There's like the scientific view, how like the Big Bang Theory, but there was also the religious view on how God created humanity. And I didn't feel that it was necessary to bring in religious beliefs to my presentation because I thought that that would just kind of conflict the two,
Okay.
create
Right.
contrast.
Okay, thank you. How was your conclusion in conversation with the body of literature or other research sources that you examined?
So most of the sources that I use stress the fact that evolution has been different for like every species on the planet, and others said that the evolution was more common in species, and so I kind of wanted to bring in a solution that showed the similarity and differences for both of them and not just one of them.
Okay, thank you. Another round of applause.